Hey guys, what's going on? Dr. S here. See if I can get the Facebook thing right this time. Without a whole lot of overlap. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm on a different night tonight. Normally, I am here on Tuesdays, but I have a conflict tomorrow. Excuse me. And I wanted to pop on and drop this nugget. So Dr. S here, dropping nuggets you did not know you needed. And as always, it is my hope and prayer that they will help you be your best you. So I don't know, maybe nobody will hang out with me tonight. Maybe you all will catch this on the replay. Either way, whether you're here with me now or watching the replay, I would love to hear your thoughts. So comment, share your opinion, share your experiences. I love for this to be interactive. So yeah, talk back to me. If you are popping on, especially if you are on Facebook, be sure to say hey so I can say hey back. IG, always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. And I don't know, I'm really bad about doing notifications, but if you haven't already, click your notification for IG and Facebook. So if it's a new day, you'll be sure to get the notification in case you don't see it when I post it on my page or in my stories. Or if you're just curious to know whenever I randomly pop up on here, that way you can always be in the know and catch it live. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, hey, Dr. S here. Welcome, welcome Facebook, welcome IG, welcome to my YouTube family as well, because I upload this generally sometimes the same day, sometimes a couple of days later because I forget. But I just want to mention a few things before I get started with tonight's word of mouth with Dr. S. So I do have on my t-shirt today. Hopefully you guys can see it on Facebook. So Roar Like a Lioness Women's Conference is fast approaching. Oh my gosh, when I try to get this together in November, April seemed like an eternity away, and now it's like tomorrow. So registrations are coming in for that, and I strongly encourage you, if you want to come and you want to be able to rock your t-shirt, today is the absolute last day to order that. So just go to the link in my bio, or if you are looking at a Lioness post, then just click on the form and register. And on that form, you can say, hey, I want a t-shirt in black or in this really pretty, I really like this color, heather blue. And when you pay for your registration fee, you just add an additional $25. And if you do that tonight by 7 o'clock, I will order your shirt. But tonight is the absolute last night to order, because I really want to be sure that they're back in time for me to give them out to you guys at the conference. Also, with regards to registration, Friday, this coming Friday, the 18th, is the last day for the kind of early bird special. That's what I'm calling it now. For some, I don't know why I didn't call it that before, but anyway, if you register by Friday, then included in your registration fee is a lunch. So sandwich, chips, cookie, fruit salad, I think a drink, you get that included in your fee. You get to choose whether or not you want a turkey sandwich or a ham sandwich or a veggie sandwich. And so I would love to be able to physically feed you in addition to spiritually feeding you, but that means you have to get your registration in by Friday. Now, does that mean that Friday is the last day to register? Not at all. You can register up to the day before. You can register that morning of. We definitely had people who did that the last time. So if that works better for you to register after Friday, then that's fine. But unfortunately, it will not include a lunch after that because I have to get the numbers to the caterer. So today, 7 o'clock is the final deadline to order your shirt. And then Friday is the final deadline to register and have a lunch included. But you can register up until April 2nd at 8 o'clock a.m. or come up when you walk in the door. And you can Cash App me or PayPal me for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, Facebook, welcome, say hey in the chat so I can say hey back. IG, hang out with me for a bit as we talk a little bit about know the difference. So tonight I want to share something that kind of dropped in my spirit and kind of something that dropped in my spirit this morning in the wee hours as I was just thinking about kind of my own personal journey to spiritual and mental health and well-being and wellness, whatever word you would like to use. I have tried to be really open and transparent, especially over this past year, about things that I've realized and transitions that have happened. And so in the past, I have mentioned that about a year and a half ago, so October of 2020, to be exact, I realized, like, it legit dawned on me that I had been dealing with PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. And, you know, if you know me, you know my background. I'm a social worker, a therapist, all of those things. And usually we're like the first people to diagnose ourselves, right? We'll go to WebMD, or, as a professional, we'll go to the DSM, and we'll be like, I am this, this, and this. And for some reason, that possibility just escaped me, that I could potentially be dealing with, experiencing, suffering from even post-traumatic stress disorder. And in that realization, when that clicked for me, what also clicked was the fact that my lack of awareness that I was dealing with this was significantly adversely affecting some really major decisions in my life, like relationship-wise, my relationship with God and what that looked like, what I felt that needed to look like. It was really in response to trauma I had experienced in my life and had not dealt with. So this is what I'm thinking about at like 2-3 o'clock this morning. And as I was thinking about it, 2 words popped into my head. So the word episode popped into my head and the word chronic popped into my head. And I'm going somewhere with this. So as I was thinking about these things, I was like, ooh, you all know that when thoughts come to my mind or I'm challenged in some way, I definitely want to share it with you because I know it's not just me. Like, I know I'm not the only person experiencing these things. And so at like 2-3, I think I was up to like maybe 5 this morning, just typing things up and researching and looking up things. And so as I was looking up these words, episode and chronic, I also added the word flare up. So these are words, I mean, you've heard, you know these words, maybe even use them in your everyday conversation. And so I am challenging myself and challenging you all to think about them in the context, a slightly different context maybe. So I want to define these words for you. So when you think about a flare-up, the dictionary says a flare-up is a sudden outburst of something. So remember that word, outburst. It said especially violence or medical condition. So when I was thinking about a flare-up, some people sometimes will say like my son has eczema. So sometimes he'll have like a flare-up, an eczema flare-up. And so when I was thinking about that, what came to my mind is something that's like isolated in nature, something that is typically precipitated by something else, like some other aggravating event. So again, like with my son, if he uses the wrong kind of soap or detergent, or he's, I don't know, rolling around in grass, I don't know, that might cause a flare up in the eczema on his skin. And so these flare ups can be physical, with the example I'm giving now. It could be emotional, it could be spiritual. If you guys can think of other ways that you could experience a flare up, then put it in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. So that's flare up. The other word is episode. So an episode is a finite period in which someone is affected by a specific illness, or it can be a group of events occurring as a part of a larger sequence. So either a finite period of something that's happening, so it could be a specific illness or something else. And it could also be a group of events that are occurring as a part of a larger sequence. So for this, y'all know I am being delivered from TV for real. But y'all know I love a good TV show. And so immediately my mind went to TV and a series, and how these series have episodes. So there is a finite, allotted amount of time. So 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever. But it's also a part of this larger sequence. So, a season is 8 episodes or 12 episodes or whatever the case may be. And that it's a part of this larger thing, and that it's going to happen, every Wednesday. If it was, back in the 80s before we had on demand, on Thursdays, we knew at 8:30 we were watching Cosby Show and A Different World. Like, my grandma to this day watches her stories. So every day I don't call her between 12:30 and 2, because she is watching her episode or her stories. And then the last word is chronic. So chronic is something that is persisting for a long time or constantly reoccurring. And typically it's long lasting. So again, it's going to persist for a long time. And it's also difficult to eradicate or to get rid of. So chronic, persisting for a long time or constantly reoccurring. So even if it maybe kind of fades away for a little bit, it's going to come back. And so it's long lasting, and it can be difficult to get rid of or eradicate. So when I thought about this, I thought about something that's ongoing and habitual. And it could, the only health condition I could think of, and I'm sure there are hundreds, but I thought of like sickle cell disease. Like, that's something that you have, it's persistent, it's ongoing. There could be drugs or medications you could take to alleviate it a little bit, but you probably are not going to get rid of it. You're not going to eradicate it. So I thought about that. I thought about like severe persistent mental illness. So if a person has a heavy diagnosis like bipolar or something like that, then someone could say, well, that's a chronic illness, because it is persistent, it's ongoing, it's gonna come back up. Even if they like have a lull, it will probably come back up. So we have flare-ups, episodes, and things that are chronic. In my mind, these are things that, again, you can see in the physical, so the natural. You can see it in emotionally, so psychologically. You can see it in the spirit, or it can affect things that are related to our spirit man. But it's these 3 things, and that I encourage us to be thinking about as I talk about know the difference. So I mentioned kind of these health reasons or these health examples, or even like the TV show, but there are some other things that may be a little more relevant to us that can fall into one or possibly more of these categories. And so I started thinking about things like anger, intense frustration, depression, Guilt and shame, I say those together, but they're different. So guilt, shame, unforgiveness, lust. Um, Again, I'm sure there are others. And if you're, hanging out with me now, watching the replay, what are some other things that come to mind when you think about something that could flare up, something that could be an episode, or something that could be chronic in nature? So let me know what you think. But those were the ones that came to my mind. Now, some of us are dealing with, we either have dealt with these conditions in the past, or we're dealing with them now. And we have these emotions and these situations and these circumstances that we're trying to manage. And it's really important for us to have a fuller understanding of how these things, so if it's anger for you or depression for you or lust for you, we need to have a fuller understanding of how they are presenting themselves, flare up, episode, or chronic. So then we know how to appropriately address them. Because you're probably not going to address a flare up in the same way you address something that's chronic, or an episode in the same way you would address a flare up. So that's why this word of mouth is called Know the Difference. So as I'm talking, as you're thinking about, some ways that these categories may be relevant in your life, it really takes some introspection. It really takes some time to think about, what's going on in your life. So I gave an example of my son with a flare up, but I was also thinking about another example for a flare up could be something that presents itself as an isolated incident. So for example, let's say you're at work and your coworker says something, or your boss does something, and like kind of out of nowhere, it triggers something in you and you have like this really angry outburst, like over the top, doesn't match up with what happened. It's an extreme response to something. It's not your typical character. This is not usually how you would respond, but whatever was said or whatever happened, it flipped something, and you had this flare up, you had this outburst, you had this response that was atypical or unusual for you. And maybe you dealt with anger in the past, maybe you've been delivered from that, and it's just like truly out of your character, flare up, outburst. It could be kind of like a oops moment, like that, my bad. I did not mean to respond like that. I'm sorry, don't fire me. But it's not you. And so even your response, not only does it catch the people around you off guard, it catches you off guard because you're like, that's not me anymore. I've dealt with that. That's not in my character. And so I'll give you another example. One day, my son, I don't know what he did, but whatever he did, I legit like I wasn't even trying to cuss. Like it was not anywhere in my brain to be like, formulate this word and say this cuss word. But like it came out, and it was like this weird conglomerate. I don't know. It was like so weird and out of character, and a flare up and an outburst. And even he looked at me like, did you just, I was like, I don't know what just happened. So I had this flare up, and it was totally crazy. Of course, I had to repent and apologize to him, but that's not my nature. I don't curse. I haven't like cursed for real, like with intention in years and years and years. But whatever was happening in that moment touched something, it triggered something, and it came out of me. So when that happens for things that are spirit related, right? When those things happen that are spirit related, that's a moment of reflection, right? That's a moment to be like, okay, what is going on, so that tiny little thing that I really thought was no longer in me came up. Maybe when you honestly think about it, you're like, you know what? I missed prayer a couple of days this week. You know what? I haven't been in my Bible like I need to. You know what? I really haven't. I really haven't talked to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like you realize that you've allowed your flesh to raise up a little bit, and your spirit man is weak. Your spirit man is not as strong, and so it is easier for a flare up to occur, for an outburst to occur, because we have not been keeping ourselves on the right track. If I go back to the physical example with my son, if I know that he deals with eczema, then I have to be mindful of the detergent. I can't think it's unusual for him to have a flare up if I'm not helping him take care of his skin. So in the same way in the spiritual, I can't be surprised that a flare up happens if I'm not doing in the spiritual what I need to do to maintain my spirit. You with me? That makes sense? So sometimes, if you catch yourself having a flare up, again, whether it's anger, depression, lust, jealousy, comparison, any of these things, if you feel that raising up in you and it's unusual and out of the norm for you, then it's an opportunity for us to do a self-check and be like, okay, let me build myself back up in my most holy faith. In my mind, in this example, a flare-up is a quick fix. Like, you just get back to your, for me, I do YouVersion every morning. Get back to that. Get back to your prayer time, whenever that is. Get back to your Bible reading, whenever that is. So a flare-up is a quick fix. Put a little ointment on it, go on your way. You're good. So with an episode, an example of an episode that came to mind, and I know that I have gentlemen who watch my videos from time to time. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for representing. I appreciate you. But typically my audience is women. And so this example is a very woman example. So think about, every month, for some of us, maybe it's not every month anymore, but for a long time, every month around a certain time of the month, we was feeling some kind of way. If we're being honest. We weren't just craving chocolates. We was craving something else. Just me. I was the only one. Oh, all right, I'll be by myself on this. Usually, that time of the month, your hormones are kicking up, things are moving around, you feeling some kind of way in your body. And it's not a surprise, because guess what? It's an episode. It's something that happens for a finite period of time. It's a part of this larger phenomenon. We're not surprised, right? Because it happens every month, just like the TV show came on every week at 7 o'clock or every week at 1 o'clock. Typically, every month at a certain time, Aunt Flo, the curse of Eve, whatever you want to call it, is coming. So it's not a surprise. You're not caught off guard. This is something you've been dealing with for years and years and years. So we should be a little more prepared for that. So if we have, if for you, this time of the month does bring up a sense of lust and desire, it's coming. So what do we need to do beforehand in preparation? So if I am attempting to live saved, single, and satisfied, if I'm, on my journey to stay virtuous and holy, and I know that this rises up in my flesh every month, what do I do to prevent that from happening? Now, the flare up, we reading, we know We might slip a little bit and get caught off guard. But this episode, if you know consistently every time you get paid, you have to deal with, I don't know how to call this because I mean, it's not a sin, it's a choice. But like, if you know you're trying to save money and every paycheck, you know, you run to the store or you online, you know the paycheck coming. What are you doing to bring your flesh under subjection to say, okay, I know I'm gonna have this money in my hand. I know, you know, old school folks be like, it's burning a hole in my pocket. Like, you know, that's happening. You know that paycheck's coming. You know your cycle is coming. You know you're gonna see this person. Like, you know these things are coming. It's an episode. So what do you need to do to prepare? If lust has been a challenge for you, if you've been sexually active before and now you're on the straight and narrow path, then you probably need to not contact certain people if they're still in your phone. There are probably certain shows you don't need to watch or certain music you don't need to listen to because you are keeping yourself from getting caught up in the trap of this episodic situation. I don't even know if that's a word. Somebody look it up, tell me. But you know, like, you know, direct deposit about here. Oh my gosh, it's tax season. You know, we don't want to be ghetto rich. We know we want to save up some money and have, you know, 3 to 6 months salary in an emergency. Like, we know this. So what can we do beforehand to guard ourselves from these episodes? Right? When it comes to an episode, a situation that we would consider an episode, then it is on us to use wisdom. Yes, we're, you know, fasting, not fast, well, fasting too, but I want to get into that with the chronic. But yes, we're praying. Yes, we're doing our reading. Yes, you know, whatever. We're doing those things. Episodes take it's like going up a tier. It takes this additional level of responsibility. Because at the end of the day, saints, everything ain't the devil. You knew it was coming. Oh, the devil, he just tripped me up. He didn't. He didn't. We were ill prepared. We can't blame that. We shouldn't blame that on the devil. We have to take responsibility because it's an episode. Y'all see the difference? Flare up episode. So flare up episode. So now I want to talk about chronic, and then I'm going to get on off of here. So chronic. So those situations, these chronic situations, are those things that are constant, persistent issues that will likely only come out by fasting and prayer and probably therapy. Like these t-shirts we're wearing, and I wholeheartedly support Jesus and therapy. Nothing wrong with the both of those. These chronic situations that may present themselves before you, Jesus, prayer, therapy, fasting, it is going to take a conglomeration of things to address and hopefully alleviate these things that are persistent in your life. Now, what may be a chronic situation in your life is possibly different, probably different from what's in my life. And so I'm not ranking them or rating them, or I don't have an exhaustive list. But remember, I said this is a time of self-reflection to be like, what am I really dealing with, and where does it fall in these 3 categories? And then once I figured out the how, know the difference. Once I figure out the how it's lining up in my life, then I can know how to tackle it. So if it is a chronic situation, then this is something that's greater than just a shout it out. There are some issues that we're treating like flare-ups, but they're chronic. And so we, you know, shouting and falling out and crying and snotting and all that. And then Monday comes and we're like, why am I still dealing with this? Because it's chronic. Because it's more than a flare-up. It's something that's persistent and deep rooted, and we have to go deep to dig it all the way out. Um, maybe as you're thinking about it, like dig deep, like go deep, deep. Like I said, and I'll share more about this revelation about the PTSD. Like I didn't even realize it was there. And that may be your story too. Like you don't even realize pride is an issue. You don't even realize gossip is an issue. You don't even realize fear has this strong grip on you that is affecting ultimately all of the things you're doing, but it's there and it's lurking. It's like just up under the surface. So you're not seeing it. It's like, so for some of us with anger, like if I'm cussing everybody out all the time, then I know I got an anger issue. But if I'm low key, like, oh, well, procrastinating, well, the deeper issue for procrastination could be fear. Even if I'm having anger outbursts, the deeper issue for that could actually be sadness, grief, fear of rejection. So it could be something deeper. But if we don't acknowledge it, we don't dig deep to figure out the root cause, then we're not going to be able to address it appropriately. The other thing that gets us, I think, sometimes with chronic issues, it is not only are we sometimes unaware that it's an issue, but sometimes we think it's just how we are. That's just how I am. Like I was an angry child. Like I have worked really hard to not be an angry person. And so my clap back, my go off, I mean, it was like quick. And I would be like, well, that's just me. I mean, you just what? you need to toughen up. You need to thicken up your skin. No, it's not just me. And no, they don't need to thicken up. I need to check myself. Because the reason why I was angry was because of things that happened in my past that I either wasn't aware of or hadn't dealt with, and they were bubbling up in other activities, other avenues of my life. So it's not just the way you are, because that's not how God made us, right? Life has happened, and that can cause us to perpetuate and demonstrate certain types of behaviors, but that's not really us. We need to understand that oftentimes those things that we call us or say that it's just the way we are really unresolved issues from childhood, or unresolved issues from past relationships, or unresolved issues from our parents, or again, life that's broad. So I don't want to limit the examples because I might not say your specific example, but it's something that happened in life. And then the last thing about that part, that kind of trick of the enemy in saying, okay, either I wasn't aware that it was there, or I assume that's just how I was, or it's a lie from the enemy. It's something that he has told us for so long that we have now internalized it, and we believe that's really who we are. We believe that that's just who we are. That's who we're gonna be. That's all we can be, because he's said it for so long, and with such a fervor and determination that we've gotten to the point that we believe it. For some of these chronic situations, these persistent situations, these deep-rooted situations, these things that are deeply embedded in us, that's what chronic looks like. And if it's not properly identified, again, if we're treating it like a flare-up, especially, or if we're treating it like, oh, that only comes up every now and then. I mean, it's kind of an episode. It might happen every, few months or something like that. But if it is chronic, we need to go deep. We need to dig deeper. So I said I would say a little bit about when I realized that I was needing to be delivered from PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, because I had not given weight to the very traumatic experiences that I had growing up, from being physically abused in the womb. So being my mother was physically abused while pregnant with me. So because I'm in there, that means I'm being physically abused. So from even before birth, I was dealing with trauma. I was molested. I was in abusive relationships. I had daddy issues and mama issues. Like, there was a lot going on with me, a lot of things happening to me over the course of my life. Legit. I said, I just had this revelation not even 2 years ago. So for 45 plus years of my life, I was dealing with traumatic experiences, but never identified them as trauma, ever. It, like, legitimately never even crossed my mind that I had dealt with and was dealing with trauma in my in my life, in in my relationships, in my early family history, in my adult relationships. And because I had not identified it as trauma, because I had not identified that it was affecting me, then out of trauma, I was choosing certain relationships. I was choosing certain friendships. I was choosing certain ministries. I was choosing just various things, because I was looking for something to protect me from trauma, but I didn't know that that's what I was doing, if that makes sense. So because I hadn't identified that it was this chronic situation, I'm just like, oh, sometimes I get angry, or sometimes I get sad, or sometimes I get suicidal, sometimes I get homicidal, and it wasn't like, hey, ma'am, the deep root, the seeds of this are much deeper than you're giving credence to. And that is the problem. The problem is you haven't dealt with that. So when I realized that, when it finally clicked in my head that, hey, these are things that have happened to you over your life. Give weight to them, acknowledge them, acknowledge the hurt and the pain and the stress and the trauma. Forgive yourself for not realizing it sooner, because that's a whole nother, I mentioned guilt earlier. So then it kind of shifted, like, well, I'm a whole therapist. How I ain't know this? Forgive those people, forgive the situations, forgive myself, and start walking out that process of deliverance. And as my friend Patrice Harding says all the time, deliverance is a process. So maybe it does start with the shout at the altar. Maybe it does start with the prayer during altar call, but it is definitely a process. It is definitely something that continues beyond that prayer or beyond that altar. That's where the therapy comes in. That's where the fasting and prayer comes in. That's where the deep, hard, uncomfortable work comes in. That's where the conscious decisions to be like, okay, I'm not going to respond like that anymore. I'm not going to react like that anymore. I'm going to bring my flesh under subjection, because I don't want this chronic illness to persist any longer. I know that they said it was incurable. I know that they said I couldn't get rid of it. I know they said it couldn't be eradicated, but by the blood of Jesus, because his blood is strong enough, it's thick enough, it has not lost its power. It can go away if we do the work. So as I said, whatever your thing is, as you are thinking about this, and I really hope and pray that as you watch this, as you watch the replay, as you watch it on YouTube, whenever, if this is years from now, when someone is watching this, my challenge to all of us, and I include myself in this, is to really think about what is going on in my life, what types of things are presenting themselves, Are they a flare up? Are they an episode, or are they chronic? And then what do I need to do about that? Whatever the thing is for you, it can be overcome. Not an overnight process. And for some of us, certain things we're dealing with in our life, and we can pray and God can snatch it. So I'm not gonna say what God can't do. But what I am going to say is, if it is not an overnight process, don't be surprised. Don't be disappointed. Don't beat yourself up. Don't think God is not strong enough or he loves you less because it doesn't happen overnight. It is a process. We walk this out daily, right? We take up our cross daily. We have to put off the old man and put on the new man daily. So it's a process. It's going to take time, but it can be done. So here are the things that, here are the things that I would love for you to think about as you continue on this process of self-reflection. As you identify what's going on with you, the things that you are dealing with, which of these 3 categories they fall in. And here's the other thing that I forgot to mention. It is possible and probably likely to have multiple things going on at different levels at the same time. So for me currently, lust is, it's probably, it's maybe possibly a flare up, but it used to be chronic. Anger might be in the episode realm right now, but that used to be chronic. Depression used to be chronic. Now, that does not have a foothold for me. I can't even say it's a flare up. To God be the glory. But you could have different things going on at different times. So something might be a flare up, something might be an episode, something might be chronic. It might ebb and flow. There is no formula for this. There's no kind of right or wrong. It is what it is. I just encourage you to be aware of what's going on with you and where it may be so that you can address it properly. That's really what I want to hit home, that you need to know what it is and where it falls in these categories so you can address it. So that would be my first kind of tip or takeaway, is that awareness is key. We cannot act like, it is not helpful for us to act like we don't deal with these issues. Salvation is not, what's the word? How do I want to word this? Yes, we are made new. Yes, we are new creatures in Christ. No, God is not holding these things against us. And we can't act like they don't exist, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, we still have to be real with ourselves. And so awareness is key. Be honest. You know what? Yeah, I do. I lie. Yeah, I can be a little prideful. You know what? You're right. Let's do just, nobody's judging. I'll tell y'all all my little dirty secrets and skeletons in my closet, because ain't nobody pleased with us keeping a secret but the enemy. So you have to have awareness. You have to be honest. And so that's the next thing. So being honesty and having self-reflection, that's essential. The first step, acknowledging you have a problem, having this awareness. But then the next step is, okay, so what am I do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do about this? The other thing I would encourage us to do is to have accountability partners, and not just people who you can just talk to, but like people who truly are discerning, people who are truly mature, people who are going to tell you, ma'am, sir, you tripping. I thought you said, didn't you say you were going to save money? So why are you going out to eat every day this week? How come you spending up all your money at the store? Girl, get off Amazon. You need another Amazon box coming to your door. So having those accountability partners who you have been honest with, you have shared your triggers, you've shared your situations, you shared where you're trying to go in this, and they are going to remind you. Again, no judgment, but also they're not going to pretend like they don't see it. They're going to be your friends. And we have to be willing. So if we're going to have this awareness, if we're going to reflect, if we are going to be honest about what's going on, if we're going to ask these people to be our accountability partners, then we have to be willing to hear the hard stuff, whether it's the Holy Ghost that rises up in us, whether it's a friend, a family member, somebody in your leadership. If they come to you with this information, then it is our job. If I've said I want to get rid of this chronic condition, this episode, these flare-ups, then I have to be willing to hear what they have to say. That's just like if I go to the doctor, and I'm like, I don't know, my ear hurts. And they're like, oh, okay, so you need to use these drops. I mean, is something else I can do? I went to the doctor. I asked their opinion. They gave it to me, and now I don't want to do it. That don't make sense. Then I must want my ear to still hurt. I have a legal situation. I go to an attorney. I ask them, hey, so this is happening. What do I need to do? Okay, so you need to do this, fill it. I don't know. I'm going to go get a second opinion. Well, maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't. Maybe they'll tell you the same thing. We have to listen. We have to listen to these people in our circle who we trust and we've asked them to be our accountability partner. So that's what I got for you guys tonight, is know the difference. Know whether or not what you're dealing with is a flare-up, an episode, or chronic. Once you determine which one of those things it is, then do what you need to do to address it. And do it quickly. There's a flare-up and you need to just, get back into your consistent prayer and Bible study. Praise God. It's an episodic, I'm going to keep using that word because I just like it. But again, I don't know if it's a real word. And it requires you to use wisdom and to prep yourself for, that time of the month or the situation. Then use wisdom and do what you got to do. If it's chronic and you need to go deeper with counseling, therapy, fasting, prayer, really consecrating yourself and bringing your flesh under subjection, to do that. Use some time, take some time, tonight even, and start that self-reflection. Start gaining that awareness, being honest with yourself. And then find some key accountability partners, like people know, and who are going to help you stand on whatever word you make, whatever vow you make, whatever goal you are trying to attain. Excuse me. Find people who are going to help you in that. So I love you guys. I appreciate you for hanging out with me during the live. I appreciate you for hanging out and taking the time to watch the replay. If you are in the St. Louis area or trying to be in the St. Louis area, I would love to see your face on April 2nd at the Roar Like a Lioness Women's Conference. It is going to be phenomenal. Even, what we're talking about now just ties right in. And I don't be thinking about this stuff consciously, but it ties right into relationship hurt, relationship healings, or relationship healing, and addressing some of these deep-rooted things that many of us have dealt with for years and years and years. And we've either, brushed them under the rug or, pretended that they don't happen, or have tried to push through it, but it's there. It is there and it's bubbling up even when we don't know that it is, but it's coming out of us. So this conference, on this particular topic. It is needful. It is going to benefit every person who comes. The women of God who are coming, I know they're coming with a word. They're going to come with practical tools because, like I said, we're not just Jesus, and we're not just therapy. It's the full package. Because I'm a both and kind of gal. We need both, especially if we're dealing with chronic issues. So these women of God are going to bring some tangible, relevant, practical tools as well. So if you think you want to come, please, please, please go ahead and register, especially if you want to order a shirt. If you want to get your box lunch that day of, be sure to register by Friday. But if those dates don't work and you know you just have to be in the place, then just come. You can register up to the day of. But either way, however you get there, whenever you register, we just want to see you and watch God love on you and heal you and deliver you and set you free. So I love you guys. Enjoy your Monday. God willing, I will be back next Tuesday with another word of mouth. Hopefully with a nugget that you just can't live without and didn't know you needed. And that it will help you be the best you. If you are watching this now or watching the replay and it has administered to you in any way, tag a friend, share the video, like it, of course, and just help get the word out so that we can bring healing to the masses. All right. So I love you guys. I know I've said that repeatedly, but I really do. Like, Pearl, I love y'all. So be blessed, guys. Dr. S. Be blessed, Facebook. Love y'all.